Welcome back, another episode of the Coaches Roundtable. Today, I'm going to kind of chew on some meaty ideas about programming. And the thought that I'm kind of kicking around a little bit is, what's the thought process or intention behind how you select volume? Specifically, let's talk sets and reps. And I think this is the nuts and bolts of programming. And, there's definitely the textbook definition of this, where, in X range, your power and hypertrophy and strength. But going deeper than those, as you're actually working with real human beings, real athletes in the real world, why do you choose one kind of set and rep for one athlete and vary or alter that for a different athlete? What are the purposes here? I love getting into the deeper purpose behind these things.
Oh, I love that, and I appreciate the question. So, again, having the end in mind, right? It depends on what the goal of the athlete is, right? If I'm working again with a Olympic style weightlifter and we are on a formalized, training cycle, then the sets and reps are going to be determined by what phase or wave of training we're in, right? Are we in a maintenance phase? Are we trying to challenge leg strength during that block? And that'll determine kind of what the total volume and repetition and what kind of loading range we're looking at. Okay. Now, again, specialized athletes or a power lifter, it would kind of be the same thing. Right. But again, I like taking it really down, to kind of the salt of the earth people that I serve, which is, your everyday people walking the street. And what I find these days is that my favorite rep range right now in this moment is a 5x8. And the reason why I like a 5x8 is because it happens to, in my experience, hit a sweet spot of it. Because the volume is a little bit higher, we can't quite load that heavy, right? But it's not so low where my athlete, I'm really pushing the limits of their nervous system, and getting them kind of sleepy and stiff, really is what, that's the honest truth, is sleepy and stiff. And, taking it a layer deeper is like, we're in unique times right now with the pandemic. And so we've lost all our specialized containers where I go to the gym to train, I go to my office to work, my kids go to school, right? I have, I go out to eat. Now suddenly all of our containers have fallen into under one household. And I feel like it ends up being underappreciated what type of a lifestyle load that adds into your system and how that actually impacts training. So in my current time, what I found is that 5x8 gives them just enough to be able to feel like they're working, but not so much that, I end up breaking them down so they don't have the ability to be able to support the rest of their life.
Gotcha. As a therapist, most of the people that I work with are coming to me to solve a problem, whether that's pain, sometimes it's performance, but a lot of times we're working on either addressing pain or coming back from an injury. And if we're talking specifically around squatting, a lot of times that's a low back injury is kind of the most common thing. And so I would consider myself a movement specialist first and foremost. And so when I'm thinking about volume, I'm really thinking about the practice and the skill acquisition. And so I appreciate challenge and I appreciate, the classic paradigm of strength progression, linear progression, but I think of it as a skill progression. Like you got to earn your reps. Yeah. And so I love that 5 to 8. I use a lot of classic 5x5s. I also, I've been highly influenced by a lot of classic strength writers, and I think my favorite writer is Dan John.
Is it because you maybe also look like a strength athlete?
Oh, I just play one on TV. I'm not a strength athlete. No, and I think that my personal long-term training program sort of looks like this. So maybe I like this because it actually reflects the type of training that I do, which is like, I've been on linear progressions. I've actually done your programming, which is Definitely the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, and I'm never doing it again.
You're welcome.
But, for the most part, I'm not on a consistent linear progression program because I have always felt like that gets very, very stale for me as an athlete very quickly. And maybe that's just, I'm too ADD to stay consistent with a program for 3 months, but I don't necessarily, my life and my work, I don't do the same thing the same day every single week over and over, end on end, because it's too all over the place. So I've really ascribed, and I was saying one of my favorite authors is Dan John, and one of the things he says is like, I don't know why some people are stronger or weaker. I just know people who pick heavy things up tend to be stronger like 10 or 20 years later. And that's really been me, that like, I haven't been on a linear progression, but I've also never gone more than a week without picking a heavy thing up in the last 10 years. So, I've made progress over a long period of time without the kind of specificity that actually kind of burned me out when I was really, really hyper focused on that. And so, when I think of programming, I'm thinking, well, what's this going to do for me today? How is that skill going to get a little bit better so I'm still lifting a barbell 10 years later?
So it sounds like to me is like you're looking at movement as like how do I resource myself so that I can last the long haul?
Last the long haul, because honestly, what you lift today doesn't matter 10 years from now. Like, pull me up a training log from 10 years ago, and it's like, did 2.5 pounds or 2 kilos one way or the other like make the difference to what kind of human being you are today?
Right. And I really do appreciate what you're saying, because that falls in line with how I view programming rep schemes for my athletes today is like, hey, look, if you are an athlete with a sport, if you are in sport, whatever that is, and we have a goal to achieve, I'm like, heck yes, let's achieve that. Let's take a look, let's nuance it. But chances are your lifestyle is also going to support that sport in a way where I can really minimize the variables. And therefore the programming is going to have the illicit impact that I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
But for everyone else, I can give you the best program, another topic, best program. But if your lifestyle is like all over the place and we can't control those variables, or we can't control the variables in a way that's going to support the training, then your training's going to end up being, I can give you a program, but you're going to make the program randomized.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly right. So I'm really flexible with these kinds of things. And, I think for me, whatever rep range gets you the right kind of practice, I'm all for heavy. I want people to feel challenged, but I also want them to be successful. And, I do follow that. Like, I want 99 out of 100 reps to be really, really accurate. So that's how you build consistency over the long term.
1,000%. And you avoid the wobbles and injuries.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you,
All right.
Sean.
Thanks for your thoughts.